So we have our 4 rules that we talk about here at Active Self-Protection, and these are not range rules, they are life rules. They are what we do all the time, everywhere we go. Today's sponsor is Bond, a personal security platform and a very useful tool between everything is fine and calling 911. It's the I'm uncomfortable button that gives you and your loved ones instant on security agents so you're never alone. Bond agents engage and deter perps who want no witnesses. They have a 100% track record deterring crimes of opportunity because it's like installing a can of OC spray on your phone. It's for when you can't carry tools and for your loved ones who won't. Check out Bond's special ASP discount at the link below. They are, if you want to boil it down, a rewording and a bit of a tweak of the NRA's rules of safe firearms handling. Because I just find that those are more life rules than Cooper's rules. I don't want to get in a bitch fest about it, okay? But rule number 1 that we always say is that we always keep firearms pointed in the direction of least consequence. Any gun that I am holding, I am pointing. So if I have a gun in hand, now this is a blue gun, right? So this is a blue piece of plastic. It's not a real gun. Can't do anything, can't load it, can't fire anything like that. It's a piece of plastic shaped like a gun. So we can do stuff with this I'd never do with a real firearm, right? So I might go, this is the muzzle. I would never do this with a real firearm because I like this finger. And I don't want to point a gun at this finger, right? But when we were talking about, look at these guys. Can I steal your stuff?
It's cool enough. You just grab it right here. It's cool enough.
Grab that?
How in Ock, thieves in action. Yeah. They need it, man. They're over there on the dry fire range, and it's just winds howling through there. So what we always say is a gun that's in a holster is not pointed, right? So if I'm not holding on to that firearm, it's not being pointed. A gun in a holster is not pointed in any capacity. Just like a gun in a box, right? Or your case is not pointed. I know some people that get crazy about that. They're like, well, I can't walk in front of this bag because there's a gun in it that's pointed. I'm like, it's not pointed. It's in a bag, for goodness sakes. It's not a magic implement that's going to go off on its own. But the second that I put it in my hand, now I'm pointing it. And I must recognize that. And we always say we always keep our firearms pointed in a direction of least consequence. First of all, that gives me something that if this gun goes off, there is a consequence to the gun going off. There is no time when there is no consequence to a firearm discharging. And I don't care where I am. Okay? So I always got to think least consequence. Now we talk about the fact that there are low, medium, and high consequence directions to point a firearm. Okay? So what would be a high consequence direction to point a gun? Towards a person. Always?
No.
An innocent person. Now, let's think about this. If somebody is an imminent deadly threat to me and mine, where's the least consequence direction to point my gun? Right at him. So we're talking about a church active killer here. Somebody's killing people in my church. Where's the least consequence direction for me to point my gun? At that person. I got to be careful. I can't say him anymore. We just had Lakewood Church had a female active killer at Lakewood Church. It was absolutely a female. So there were a couple of reports that person, there were some transgender issues, and those were lies.
Okay.
Those were incorrect.
That's so rare.
Yeah. It's very rare for a woman to be an active killer, right? Like super rare, but it did happen. So, difference between fiction and fact, or fiction and real life. Fiction has to make sense. Doesn't make any sense. Well, it's okay. It's reality. So other though than somebody who's an imminent deadly threat of death or great bodily harm, pointing a firearm at a person is the direction of highest consequence. Okay? Now, I can say it in church safety class. I believe that's because humans are built in the image of God and of inestimable value, worth, and dignity. Okay? So that is a very high consequence direction to point a gun at somebody if they're not an imminent deadly threat. If they are an imminent deadly threat, then I have to stop that deadly threat because they're threatening other people around them and threatening the image of God in those people. Okay? So an innocent person, high consequence direction. What might we think of as medium consequence directions? An object that like, gosh, man, it would be very costly for me to destroy this. Mm-hmm. Ever see anybody dry fire at their TV? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like they're using the people on the TV as dry fire. Oh, wow. I've seen it.
Oh, they do it all the time.
Do it all the time. And you're like, dude, that TV cost you $1,000, and you're pointing a gun at it? Also, what's on the other side of that TV? They're both going to go right through that TV, into the interior wall, and through that into the next room. We don't know what's in the next room. So it's very unknown in reality. So property that would be very hard for me to replace. Number one property that I see people point guns at that they don't think about how expensive it is to replace parts, their car. see people getting in the car and then they take the gun out and they're like, oh, John, what's the best holster for me to use in my car? The one that you got in the car with on your person.
Yeah.
That's the best holster. Well, but it's uncomfortable. Then fix that problem. But leave the gun on your person, right? Number one vector of felon-acquired firearms in America is out of unlocked cars, mostly in people's driveways.
We earn them by leaving them in unlocked cars.
Yeah, we are enabling felons by leaving guns in cars. Simple as that. Okay, we don't do that. Okay. What other medium consequence directions might there be?
An object that could cause a ricochet.
Okay, so I got to watch out for where that else might go. How about an animal?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Now, if I intend to take that animal as game, I'm out hunting. Okay, I point a gun at that animal that I intend to take as game, and that's a low consequence direction. Otherwise, it becomes at least a medium consequence direction. Here we are at Cameo. We have this beautiful hills and all that stuff. We've seen antelope come up over the berm. Okay, little fast mountain goats. Little suckers are quick. Speedy Gonzales. Okay, and I've seen people point guns at those animals coming up over the berm. I go, you realize if you shoot that animal, you're catching a felony, right?
Oh, well.
And the Colorado Game and Fish Commission does not play with that felony. They will take your car, they will take the gun that you used, you will catch felony charges and do hard time. Well, I don't want to shoot it, then why are you pointing a gun at it? Don't do that, right? Very different. What would be some directions then that we would consider low consequence?
The berm at a range.
Okay, as a general rule, yes, but is that always a low consequence direction?
Depends on if there's people down there.
So
Yeah.
not if there's somebody down there, right?
Yeah,
So what I want to say is, so sometimes people go, well, the berm is a safe direction.
depends.
Right up until somebody's down there taping targets or something like that, which is why I got to think with a gun in my hand, right? What's going on in my world right now? Where's this gun pointed and is it smart? What should I be doing with it now? But a low consequence direction definitionally is where no person would be harmed if it went off, where no animal I don't intend to take as game would be harmed if it went off, and it minimized property damage. So here, if I'm pointing a gun up, I'm going to poke a hole in this expensive overhang. It's probably a more consequential direction, a less desirable direction, than if I was pointing at the ground. Because it's a soft ground, it probably will create some ricochets, so less better than if I pointed it out this way because I don't have any people down there. So I got to think about what's my best spot. And that's very contextually determined. In a church environment, I see people all the time, well, see, I want to do this, whether you want to call it conditioned stool or depressed muzzle and all that stuff. Is that a low consequence direction at church?
No, there's kids.
Maybe. Depends on if I've got tricycle motors around. If I've got ankle biters in my vicinity, right, those little delightful children, then, and I made 4 of those, okay? Mine are all grown now, okay?
Just you, nobody else.
Yeah. I helped. I was mostly there at the beginning, But so if I'm in my children's ministry area, down is probably a very bad direction at church because I've got small people down there. And up might be the right direction. Because again, pointing at the sky, is that a low or a high consequence direction? It's unknown. Well, it's going to come down somewhere, but sometimes unknown is the best I've got. Sometimes it's the best of bad choices. What if I'm on the first floor at church?
Right. Yeah.
Difficult.
It depends.
Or if I'm on the second floor?
Right.
Yeah. Got to think with a gun in my hand. That's the direction of least consequence, okay? Here on the range, you're not going to have a gun in your hand unless you're on the firing line, okay? And when you're on the firing line, then you're going to be given permission to have a gun in your hand. You're not going to be given that permission to have a gun in your hand until we've cleared and made sure there's nobody downrange. So the berm is going to be a safe direction. In front of you, towards the berm is a safe direction. I do not want somebody shooting over the berm and into the mountain. So we're going to try to keep our muzzles depressed below the berm. Okay? Launching stuff up over into the mountain is an unknown direction. So we don't want to aim guns there, okay? So our big one on that is we do not handle firearms behind the line without permission, full stop. We had you come over, we gave you permission to come over here to the fiddle table and do that with an instructor, so then that way we knew it was being done safely and all that stuff. And you guys are all accomplished firearms handlers and we expect you to handle firearms safely. But what that means is if you need to handle a firearm behind the line, you get permission from one of us. We will say yes. We'll make sure that you do it in a safe manner. Hey, John, I need to remove my magazine. I need to pull my gun out of the holster to get a magazine out or something. Go over to the fill fart table or do something like this so you can do that safely, okay? Because otherwise, you're back here behind the line and somebody's pulling a gun and I'm like, whoa, there's way too many high consequence directions here. And what that tells me is you're not thinking anymore today. Because you've been told specifically for this range, our safety rule is you don't handle a firearm behind the line without permission. You understand? Yeah. So if that happens this afternoon, that'll end your day. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. Doesn't mean I think less of you. Doesn't mean any bad stuff is in your world, that you're ugly and that your mama don't love you. Okay? Means your training day is done for shooting live fire. Okay? So that's that one. Number 2, we always keep our finger high and at home until we make the decision to shoot. So again, piece of plastic, right? We have 2 places our finger can be. At home or at work. At home or at work. If we're not working, which means we're actively shooting something, we go home. It's the number 1 thing you're going to hear today when we're out here shooting steel and you're waiting for your target, and we see this all the time. Again, I'm not going to menace you with this, right? We're sitting here like this and we're waiting. We're like, okay, here we go. And I see people, I'm ready. And I go, finger please. Wait, but I'm ready for a target. But you don't have a target. You are not ready to shoot. You are not actively engaging a target. Finger home. Finger home. Then you see your target come. Oh, there's my target. Now I can put my finger on the trigger and go to work. Okay? You'll hear that. Finger home, please. Finger home, please. We're not going to yell at you. Finger home, please. Finger home, please. Finger home, please. Finger home. But I'm not. Right, which is why I'm sitting here telling you your finger is not at home. Okay? Because I like hearing myself talk. Okay? So, questions on finger at home? One thing I do see people do is they like to set it in the front of the trigger guard. I want to not be able to see your trigger finger is what I want. Okay? At least up on the frame, if not up on the slide. Depends on if you have the finger flexibility to do that last one.
Can I add a little context here?
Sure.
So part of this, we're talking church safety here, is the context of this class, right? So in some cases, if you've got your gun in a holster, you're going to make the decision to fire before the gun comes out. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to do that, then the idea of working and prepping the trigger is okay, because I've decided I'm going to shoot that bad guy, so I'm going to get to the trigger about the time the gun is level with him. And then even if I don't have my sights in me, I'm still in the fight right now. I'm going to come up and see what I see. Then I'm going to finish my trigger press, right? But in a church safety class, like what we're doing in a lot of the drills that we're going to do, we're waiting for the target to be there. And we haven't made the decision, but we may have had an audible sound or notice that something's going on. In a church setting, if you hear gunshots in a church, one, it's not fireworks, it's gunshots. That's what they all say. I thought somebody was shooting off fireworks. When the heck is somebody if somebody brought fireworks to your church, they deserve to have a gun pointed at them at least for a second while you investigate, okay? I'm like, it just doesn't happen, right?
Damn it, Jimmy, what are you doing?
Yeah. But let's just say that little Jimmy set off an M80 in the toilet in the bathroom, and you did come in with a gun. Are you going to have your finger on the trigger?
Better not.
Because that's when bad stuff happens. So if I'm running around to investigate and I'm hunting for the killer, and you want to have the gun out, now I think there's a better way to do this, but if this is where you're going to be while you're running around or however that is, the finger is off the trigger until you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Because we have sympathetic squeeze. So whatever happens with this hand, in a lot of cases happens with this hand. So if I'm running around with my finger on the trigger and I reach down to open up a door, that's it. I don't know if you've ever shot a gun this close to your face, but it hurts, right? And whoever's up there isn't going to like you either. Not Jesus, he's still going to like you, but whoever's up there.
He's going to call you a dummy.
Yeah, Jesus is going to go, what were you? Remember that time Neil said? He's going to remind you of me at that time. All right, so anyway, I just wanted to add the context, because in some cases, in a lot of classes, we're doing draw to first shot things. We've made the decision to shoot before the gun comes out of the holster. Right? So it isn't gun comes out of the holster, then we get all of our sight, and then we move to the trigger. In that perspective, it's okay to get to the trigger. But in this perspective, and even in some of the drills we do today, that's going to be okay. But for a lot of the stuff that we do, we're going to want you to get off the trigger. Okay? Just wanted to add that a little bit. Thank you.
So that's rule number 2. Rule number 3, we always keep firearms unloaded until they're in use. Okay? Now, a gun that's on my person is being used to defend my life. So what should it be, loaded or unloaded? Loaded. Should be loaded. Otherwise, I'm beginning my gunfight with a malfunction clearance. I have a broken gun. I don't want to begin my gunfight with a broken gun. So if it's on my person, you use it to defend myself, it should be loaded. If it is stored in a bag, in a box, in a safe, and not being used, it should be unloaded, full stop, before it goes in that box. The exception is a gun that's staged for home defense should be, it's being used for home defense, so should be loaded appropriately, okay? There's some different rules on that. I don't want to go through all the stuff on that. Long guns are not drop safe and should be stored in a closet ready or cruiser ready condition. And always, rule number 4 must be kept secure from unauthorized access, okay? So when a gun is on your person, it has to be kept secure from unauthorized access. Unauthorized access for me is that means somebody can't take it off me. I do that as general. I keep pointing up here. I carry my firearm up front, okay? I'm not telling you have to do that, but I carry a gun appendix every day. Even though I'm fluffy, I can carry up front. I'm less fluffy than I used to be. I've lost 80 pounds in the last 10 months. But less fluffy. It means I'm fucking cold today. My goodness. It's the truth of the matter. You guys are going to have to forgive me. I love Jesus, but I say curse words too much. Okay, so this gun on my person is kept secure because it's concealed. Nobody knows it's there, and so therefore it doesn't get messed with. Simple as that, okay? So if you're carrying a concealed firearm, keep it concealed. If nobody can see it, they don't know it's there to take it. If you're carrying openly, say you are an open carry activist or you live in an open carry state, you want to do that, I think it should be legal in all 50 states in the district, and I just think it should be legal but rare, okay? But if you're a cop, for instance, cops all carry their guns openly because we know they got them, so no sense in hiding them. But they have retention on that holster to keep somebody from being able to take it, okay? I don't like holsters like this. This is open carry holster that I'm wearing so that I have a gun on like you do for your strong side. I'd never wear this out in town because it just has friction retention. That to me is not secure from unauthorized access, okay? So a gun at home depends on your situation. What constitutes secure from unauthorized access? Maybe you live with your spouse and nobody else comes over and you ain't got no kids or no grandkids and nobody was welcome in your house and you're a hermit and you hate people. So secure for you is you lock your front door and that's enough security. Okay, maybe that's you. In my house, I have a person who lives in my house who's made a credible attempt on their life. I can't leave guns out like that. That would be unbelievably irresponsible of me. So every staged gun in my house is in a locked quick access safe, a biometric safe. Okay, so I have one for my handgun, I have one for my long gun. I keep a shotgun near the house. I like shotguns for home defense personally because they're more better, in my opinion, okay? And mine is super long because it's got a suppressor on it, so it's like a Kentucky long rifle. Why? Because I think putting on hearing protection before I have to shoot somebody is a bad idea, so I just put it on the gun. That's just me, okay? And people are like, but John, if you use it to shoot somebody, they'll send it to an evidence locker. Yep, sure will. I'll never see it again. It went to Narnia. I'll buy a new one.
My hearing.
Yeah, that's right. Me and my hearing can go to court and ask for it back later.
Yep.
Okay? Anyhow, so those are our 4 rules. We always keep firearms pointed in a direction of least consequence. We always keep our finger high and in register, high and at home until we're ready to fire. Always keep them unloaded until they're in use and always secure from unauthorized access.